We have now cut the rails to length. The PVC inserts are inside the top, the mid, and the bottom rail. And just prior to assembling, just make sure your top, mid, and bottom rail are all fit and formed okay, that everything's going to work fine for you, and that's simply all we're doing here. So now we're ready to remove the top rail, remove the mid rail, and we're ready to put the balusters into the bottom rail and begin the assembly process. We're now ready to assemble the section. We're ready to put the balusters seat the balusters in the bottom rail. You'll notice that the balusters are pre-cut to a specific stair angle, and the system is designed to work for 30 to 36 degrees. If you have something different than 30 to 36 degrees, you're going to use a stair swivel, and you may also need to order your stair section custom manufactured to your specific rise and run of the stairs. But we're going to force this down into the bottom rail and put all our balusters in place. We are now ready to place the mid rail on top of the balusters. Keep in mind that my pink bottom of the rail, bottom side of the mid rail label is positioned right here at my fingertips. I have the first three into position. I have the mid rail in position into its cup on the lower side, and we're simply going to come along and install the balusters, kind of keeping it somewhat lined up with my hardware at the top, and drop it into place. This may require a few taps with the rubber mallet to get things fully seated. I have placed the short balusters between the mid rail and the top rail, seated them into the H profile in the mid rail. I have the bottom of the top rail into my cup, and I have this partially seated. I'm going to put the last one in place, drop this into the cup, and a friendly tap with a baseball hammer, and you have things relatively close and in position. Here we're going to discuss the brackets used on the bottom side of a Westbury stair system. It's going to be the same bracket, whether it be the top rail, bottom rail, or the mid rail system. And I want to point out that there's 4 screw holes here. You only need to use 2. And the reason there's 4 screw holes here, when you get to this scenario at the bottom of the steps, having these extra screw holes here at the top versus the bottom makes it easier to get the drill in position. So there is no right or wrong, it's whatever your preference is there. Another advantage is if you don't get your bracket placement correct the first time, and say you need to move it up 1/8 of an inch or so, you have 2 additional and fresh screw locations to work with, and you don't have to try to get the bracket into the same, floating back into the same holes. We have everything into position. Everything is nice and plumb and parallel. We can remove the labels, and we're ready to do the side entry screws to attach the rails to the hardware. Repeat on the other side. We are now ready to put the finishing and the trim, the final trim on this railing section. We'll start by the bracketry, putting the bracket covers in place. This is a male-female tension fit. It's a rounded cover for the top rail and flat covers for the mid and the bottom rail. We're simply going to get these into position and a couple taps with the rubber mallet. Now you notice this one here, I can remove it after I tap it. That's because we had to remove this bracket and reposition it. And whenever that happens, sometimes you may need to come along and just put some type of a clear adhesive on here to hold this bracket in place. Also, if you're attaching this railing system to any other type of post other than an aluminum post, you're going to need to put some type of adhesive to hold that bracket in place. Then of course we're going to repeat on the bottom side. Then we're ready to put our caps in place. The last thing you're going to do is do final fit and function. Are your posts perfectly level? And if you're satisfied with that, you're ready to put your 2-part flare in place. I always like to do the removable part on the outside of the deck. And we'll finish that on the bottom as well. Thank you for watching this installation video of the Riviera C32 stair rail system. Thank you and have a great day.